Yeah, go ahead. Tell me how unoriginal I am for covering this topic. I know other people are going to and already have made videos on this, and a good few comments are going to be saying, I'm just doing this for clout, that someone else already said this, and so on, but to be honest, I just don't really care. I feel a kind of obligatory need to talk about the wrongdoings of this production as a film, as something trying to piggyback off the success of its predecessor, and something that hasn't exactly had a good news feed for very clear and understandable reasons. I also have a more personal disdain for this movie than some people might think, because shocker, and I'm gonna blow your mind with this one, I'm a huge fan of Disney animated movies. To be honest, I haven't really fallen in love with any of Disney's own films since Wreck-It Ralph, but ever since I was a kid I've loved the Disney Renaissance era and back. Lion King, Aladdin, Hunchback, The Rescuers movies, 101 Dalmatians, you get the point. One of the films I didn't really get around to watching until I was 11 or so, however, was Mulan. I wasn't sure what to expect from the film, but upon watching it instantly became one of my favorites in the Disney collection. Sure, among animations, it doesn't quite have the grandness of Notre Dame, but it built itself through fun, relatable characters, great, memorable music numbers, wonderful scenes of somberness depicting the horrors of war at the best possible times, and giving an empowering film for women to show they have the ability to do just as good as any man. It didn't feel condescending either. It was woven into the narrative in a way that felt natural, and showed us just how much Mulan had to triumph using ingenuity in order to overcome her obstacles. Sure, it isn't perfect. The villain is probably the weakest aspect of the entire thing, but I still consider it one of Disney's most unique and well-done films. I can acknowledge that there are some objectively better films, but it holds a special place in my heart, to say the least. So you can already tell where I'm going with how I felt when I heard a live-action version of the film was gonna be released. I had outright refused to watch Lion King, Aladdin, and Dumbo after seeing Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book, but with this, I wanted to know what they'd do. I wanted to see if they could do my girl good, and oh no. No. They done did my girl dirty. They probably couldn't have fucked up harder than they did with this film, not only through the film itself, but its marketing, corporate decisions, and hypocrisy, not to mention how Disney handled the backlash afterwards. I'll get to that in due time, but first I want to talk about all the reasons I believe this film fails. Part 1. It adds nothing. Okay, if I'm being honest, it does add a few things to the overall plot. Actually, no, it doesn't add, it replaces. If we look at the film from an adding and removing standpoint, it definitely removes much more than it adds. Firstly, Mushu was replaced with a nameless phoenix that had nothing to do with the original poem, other adaptations, or even Chinese culture. Yes, they do have a version of the phoenix in the form of the Feng Wang, but from what I can find, it has nothing to do with the common idea of a phoenix burning up and being reborn anew. In China, it symbolizes grace and high virtue. It does, on some occasions, represent the sun and fire, coinciding with the Chinese principles of justice and fidelity, but the idea of a bird burning up over time to rise brighter from the ashes in the course of 500 years is an idea inherently found in the Egyptian interpretations of the phoenix. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if not, considering the research I've done, then Disney got a major part of the culture they're trying to pander to wrong. Oh, and would you look at that, despite Disney trying its hardest to appeal to Chinese audiences above all else, it underperformed expectations with both audiences and critics. It doesn't help that Mushu was at least a major force of comedy that, while not a big player in the plot, had a good dynamic with Mulan and did things other than just sort of be there like the Phoenix. He has a character arc and provides a good parallel between the two in nobly lying and doing so for self-gain. The Phoenix does nothing but try to look cool while Mulan does stuff because it's watching over her, without really affecting the plot in any way. The next thing the new Mulan replaces is it takes the fun grandmother character and replaces her with a bland, forgettable, personalityless sister that adds nothing to the film, including enjoyment. It replaces Mulan being able to overcome her shortcomings through ingenuity and wit to having superpowers no one else has. The bland villain from the original film is replaced with two bland villains for this one. Ooh, spicing it up. I'll get to those bits later though. The filmmakers also decided to remove Shang and replace him with some other rando we get like 4 scenes with because apparently they thought he was bad in light of the Me Too movement. Their reasoning was that Mulan is a mere soldier in the military and Shang has power over her as a captain. The thing is though, at the end of the original film, the Emperor himself bows to Mulan, symbolizing immense respect the likes of which a captain would never have. And then the entire rest of China bows down to her as a war hero, and she gets the seal of the Emperor. If anything, Mulan is above Shang when you think about it, and his position has nothing to do with him and Mulan kind of getting together at the end of the film. Another thing Disney didn't take into account with this change is that Shang is actually beloved by the LGBT community. He's considered a bisexual icon for basically having a bro crush on Ping and loving Mulan after the fact. That means, in trying to pander to one movement, Disney upset another. That's quite a fucking oof. In general, it has almost nothing added to it that makes it better than the original or worth watching at all. Other Disney live-action remakes at least added something to their renditions to make them stand out. For instance, Baloo in the live-action version of The Jungle Book is played in a different way by Bill Murray than the original actor, but he puts in his own flair that adds to it at least slightly, that adds to an at least slightly different experience that could be debated as better or palatable. This film adds nothing to make it any better, but instead just replaces and subtracts from the original film and the original ballad. And while I'm on that, part 2. This film fails as an adaptation of the animated film, the original ballad, and as a property on its own. I know that a few people in the comments will tell me, Braxton, Guy, chill, this is its own thing, and therefore should be given its own merit beyond the animated film. If anything, it's trying to be more like the original ballad from feudal China. And that's what Disney would both like you to believe and want you to not believe. The original poem relating to Mulan is rather short, being only 62 lines. The story goes that Mulan's father is drafted, she takes his place, she fights for 10 full years, she's given the opportunity to accept any gift she wants but decides to just go home. Her allies find out after the fighting that she was a woman all along, and are impressed she could do it for so long. Mulan gives a short explanation about how men and women aren't so different. End of poem. Now tell me, where in that was the ability of Chi that gave Mulan superpowers? Where was the witch? Where did Mulan strip off her armor in the middle of battle and just go full woman mode? Where's the part where it's implied Mulan will join the Emperor's Royal Guard? Where's the Phoenix? I'll tell you where. Not in the fucking ballad. This version of Mulan takes just as many liberties, if not more than the animated film, and ultimately misses the message of the original ballad with some of the new bits the film mixes in. Also, if you look at the marketing for the film, what can you hear in the background? Oh, why that's a reflection. Why is my reflection someone? You know, the most well-known and remembered song from the original movie besides Make a Man Out of You? It isn't only in marketing either. On at least 2 different occasions, the film plays an instrumental version of Reflection during action scenes. They may have removed all the songs, but as shown here, they sure like to reference it.
We're going to make men out of every single one of you.
I don't care what she looks like.
I agree.
I care what she cooks like.
They actually mess up one of the references by saying,
Her skin is white as milk. Her eyes are like morning dewdrops.
when it's actually,
I want her paler than the moon, with eyes that shine like stars.
There's also the fact that this version of Mulan contains scenes with the matchmaker. It includes the line, "You trusted whatever Mulan's name is in the new movie, why is Mulan any different?" Includes the characters of Ling, Po, and Yao, as forgettable as they are in this version, and it has a scene where Mulan is bathing and someone else tries to reconcile their differences with her. If these scenes, characters, and lines aren't being taken from the original movie, where are they from? If you look at it and know both materials, it's clear which one Disney took more inspiration from. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They want to say they're changing Mulan to fit with the original Chinese story, yet they also want to bring in the nostalgia money from people who like the original film. So they put in all these scenes, characters, and lines to be like, yeah, the original existed and we're still trying to be like it. And in the end, neither side was happy. As an original film, forgetting both materials it's clearly drawing from, it still fails. Everything it removes from the original only makes it worse in comparison, to the point you wonder where the 4 different writers were even thinking. thinking. Getting into the first thing they decided to completely remove, Mulan's personality. If you watch the original Mulan film, what can you tell? Well, she's studious, resourceful, compromising, self-sacrificing, and sometimes clumsy and reckless with good intentions. What does this Mulan show? Well, her actress is pretty mediocre and doesn't show much emotion. She's instantly hostile to people that try to help her. She has one scene of resourcefulness, but besides that, never really does anything smart, and she's overly loyal to the Emperor to the point she says this.
I know my place. And it is my duty to fight for the kingdom and protect the Emperor.
That reminds me of a scene in both the original Mulan and earlier in this same movie.
I know my place. It is time you learned yours.
You are the daughter!
Learn your place.
Wow, this film is really consistent, isn't it? Like I said previously, another aspect of her personality, that being her ability to compromise and use wit to overcome her obstacles, has mostly been stripped away in favor of her just having chi, which allows her to have all stats boosts to her strength, archery skill, basically everything that makes her stronger than the rest of the army. The entire idea of chi is stupid and never should have been implemented into the movie. The entire point of both the poem and the original movie is that while Mulan is not a man, she is just as capable and able to achieve just as much as they do. The ending of the original poem states, the he hare's feet go hop and skip, the she hare's eyes are muddled and fuddled. Two hares running side by side close to the ground, how can they tell if I am he or she? Meaning males and females have their differences, but when they fight alongside each other or run alongside each other, it's harder to tell the difference. Mulan in the original film didn't start out as a girl boss with the ability to pull off amazing feats. That wouldn't make sense with her upbringing as a girl in a regular Chinese family of that era. She tries to fit in as a very feminine woman, but she fails at doing so. That's more the fault of the cricket her grandmother slipped in rather than Mulan herself, but she is shown to still not be a perfect bride. When she takes her father's armor and goes off to fight, she starts out accomplishing basically nothing because she isn't good at being extremely masculine either. One of the goals that soldiers of the training camp try to accomplish is to retrieve an arrow from the top of a pole. The main drawback, however, is that they have to do it while wearing stone tablets on their hands, representing strength and discipline. Every one of them fails because they only think of it from the perspective of using brute strength to get up, something perceived as highly masculine. Mulan is the first of them to break from this by incorporating both strength and wit into her approach, using the two tablets as a holster to keep her steady as she climbs. At the end of the day, she uses a mixture of masculine and feminine traits to reach her goal, and the other soldiers soon follow, leading to them being able to accomplish what they couldn't before. These side characters learn with Mulan and grow as people alongside her during the musical number. In the new Mulan, the main task is just carrying water up a mountain because the one who can carry it the fastest is the strongest, and it's overcome by her after she just realizes she's better than everyone and should use the magical power she has. Instead of growing with the other cadets and getting to know them, we have a few scenes of them interacting, and the only one to leave any sort of impact is this one guy that has a few scenes to himself with Mulan. He has a scene with her at the end that's supposed to be sad or something, but I honestly couldn't care less. Back to the magical superpowers, by adding this dumb aspect of chi, Mulan is an exception now. She isn't just another ordinary woman who was able to use her own wit and brains to accomplish what other men couldn't. She's now one girl that was able to do better than others because of the power she got at birth. That's a wonderful message to little girls. Hey, Stacy, you want to play soccer with us?
No, I wasn't born with magical superpowers. There are boys out there. I could never compete.
That's what you convey by doing this, Disney. It muddles the entire message and makes it look sloppy in comparison to the animated film. Speaking of sloppy, the editing of this movie. I don't know who was in charge of editing this film, but they did a horrendous job. I could edit better than this movie. To show you what I mean, let me play a short clip from this film unedited. Remember, I didn't even touch this. Do you see what I mean? Sorry, maybe it didn't, because it just went that fucking fast. The editing in this movie would be bland on its own if it was only shot, reverse shot, reverse shot shit, but instead there's a ton of cutting during action scenes that just makes them look really disjointed and unorganized. It's like the camera can't keep up and has to keep switching to different ones, back to first, zoom in, zoom out, random tracking shot, random perspective shot, slow-mo, completely different shot. The editing is so jarring sometimes it becomes comedic in moments where it's not supposed to be. In one of the opening shots where the enemy appears, it shows a fast shot reverse shot that's so comedic it reminded me of Monty Python. Just hold on, watch this. Do you guys not see it? I was bawling at this. I didn't even have to edit the audio or anything. It just fits so well, it's scary. The difference between the two is the shot in Monty Python was intentionally funny, playing around with this kind of shot and perspective, whereas the new Mulan is just kind of bad. You'd think there would be better direction for a film that supposedly cost $200 million and was gonna be shown in theaters. The cinematography is decent most of the time, but it can be bogged down by some of the sets. Like this scene where the soldiers are walking through the Valley of Corpses feels and looks so much like a theater set. In fact, the barricade in Les Miserables actually looks more realistic. The animated version actually showed a much more brutal scene. I thought this was supposed to be the mature version with the more serious themes. Now that I think about it, this was also their reason for Part 3, the lack of songs. Right from the beginning of Mulan's live-action announcement, one of the aspects that were rumored about and confirmed to be true was the complete lack of songs for the entirety of the film. Mulan, among Disney films, doesn't have too many songs, and there's good reason behind that, but according to Disney themselves, it was removed to make the film quote-unquote more real. Let's see how well this claim holds up by first looking at the 4 songs in Mulan: Bring Honor to Us All, Reflection, Make a Man Out of You, and A Girl We're Fighting For. Of the songs, Bring Honor to Us All seems on the base level the most unnecessary. It's the starting song of the film, but it does convey some important information within its short time. It explains that the greatest honor for a girl is to be a perfect bride. It shows scenes of Mulan being smart and kind, going against the norm, and it sets up the status quo that Mulan is going to break in the line, "We all must serve our emperor who guards us from the Huns, a man by bearing arms, a girl by bearing sons." The second song, Reflection, is a beautiful, serious song about Mulan suffering an identity crisis and wondering how she can be like what others tell her to be. It's honestly one of Disney's most mature songs, and its serious nature is probably the reason they couldn't help but put it in the new movie and trailers. Make a Man Out of You is another great song in a different way. Something it and A Girl We're Fighting For have in common is they work the best among the songs of Mulan as being sung in the moment. They can basically be represented as songs soldiers sing when talking or going off into battle. Make a Man Out of You could closely be related to I Don't Know But I've Been Told, a basic cadence used in training for the United States Marines. A Girl We're Fighting For could be seen as a song like Over There. Over There is a 1910s war song that was very popular with soldiers during both World Wars. During moments of levity or training, soldiers would sing or chant both of these types of songs, so it works in the moment. Apparently Disney never heard of this, or I guess they forgot since they did know about this earlier when they made the original, and they thought that it would be more realistic to have them chant nothing ever and always be serious for this film. Except when it has goofy scenes like the matchmaking one, where it's just as cartoony as the original version with none of the charm. Quick side rant about this scene, it takes something from the original and causes it to not make sense. In the original, Mulan writes notes on her arm to try and remember stuff, and is given a cricket, leading to the matchmaker accidentally doing something to make her look stupid, Mulan seeming uncomposed, and then the cricket further ruining her chances and making Mulan fail the whole thing. It's mostly not her fault, but it's easy to see how people could think it was. In the new Mulan, a spider is on the table, and a previously seemingly pointless flashback has a sister character say, "You know, I'm afraid of spiders," in a way that you know it'll be brought back up later. So she's there, and will probably freak out, so Mulan puts the spider under the teapot. The matchmaker gets angry and Mulan obeys to remove it, the spider frightens her, and this cartoony shit happens. And in response, the matchmaker puts dishonor on Mulan's family? Like, it clearly isn't her fault at all, and with the fucking cat-like reflexes she shows to catch the fine china, you'd think the matchmaker would be shitting herself with anticipation at such a composed bride. Another thing this film seems to forget sometimes is that it's live action and not an animated movie. With animated movies, you can have much more exaggerative expressions in the characters, which can give the film a lot more life and personality. With live action films, you can only go so far with those expressions, so it looks very cartoony and goofy, but also not goofy enough, and too goofy for a film that's mostly serious besides this. I really hate how they messed up this scene, just like I hate how they messed up others by not including music. Great segue, Braxton. Thanks, Braxton. One subtle detail you may not have noticed on a first viewing of the original Mulan is that the songs stop about halfway through the film, and new ones are never sung after that. There is a callback to Be a Man in one of my favorite scenes where the friends of Mulan abandon most of their masculinity, like Mulan did her femininity, in order to get into a castle, but full-on musical numbers straight up stop. The cool thing is, you can actually pinpoint the exact moment where the songs stop. The gang's all enjoying their march with A Girl We're Fighting For, and at the perfect moment, the music abruptly abruptly stops and we see the burnt village. We realize they were too late. In a mostly silent scene, we gaze upon the battlefield of corpses, and Shang's father's helmet is all that's left of him. It's a somber, serious moment that carries over into the rest of the film. There's no time for singing while China is in danger, so they don't. Coincidentally enough, another nice, subtle moment comes when Mulan finds a girl worth fighting for, that being the girl whose doll was left behind after she most likely died. How do you think this was handled in the new one? Answer: it wasn't. Shang isn't in the film, so there's no ability to care that he was not only too late to help others, but he couldn't even help his own father. The set of a lost battle is mostly just glossed over in a real quick scene that's not nearly as brutal as the original, despite having a cool-ass PG-13 rating because it's so mature. Speaking of maturity, part 4, the villains still suck. If there was any major aspect of Mulan where it came to the original film that could be criticized, it was Shan Yu. He's a perfectly serviceable villain. He's intimidating, powerful, he's got a scream that I think the writers were trying to push as his thing because he kinda does it a few times, but in the end, he doesn't have much of a personality at all and doesn't leave a lasting impact. I mean, come on, if he were a good villain, he would have been on the Disney Heroes vs. Villains chess set. This is basic knowledge, people, keep up. I'm probably one of the only people that remembers his name without having to look at the Disney Villains wiki. Out of everything in the new film, this was the one aspect I hoped they could create something new from. I hoped they'd make a character or characters that were more memorable, recognizable villains. That's when I realized that this is modern Disney, and they don't do that. Instead, we basically get the exact same guy, except now he has a sorceress with him. He also kidnaps the Emperor, but in this case, it feels a little weird because he just took the Emperor to some random monument that was supposed to be made for his father. It doesn't feel really cinematic is what I'm trying to say. In the end, he dies by Mulan kicking an arrow into his chest, and it's kind of the funniest shit ever.
The other villain, the sorceress, is about the same. She has little to no personality beyond being outcast because she was doing her magic mumbo jumbo. We don't see it either because, as is truly the best way, the tried and true method of tell don't show is ever present when talking about her backstory. Bori Khan or whatever his name is just info dumps it all, and that's cool, I guess. Then she meets Mulan and is like, "You're weak because you're not who you say you are." And Mulan just goes into battle after that as a woman, despite the fact she should have been killed just for doing so. Like, they just banish her and shit, but again, talking about the animated movie, she was supposed to be killed but was spared for having saved Shang's life beforehand. The newer version gets off pretty easy, so after that Mulan goes traveling for a bit and runs into the sorceress, who no joke basically does the whole "we're not so different, you and I" speech, and you guessed it, she asks Mulan to join her. Because movie. You can pretty much guess the rest. Yada yada, she doesn't accept the offer. Yada yada, she convinces the gang to come with her to try and save the Emperor. Yada yada, the sorceress is surprised they accept her and just turns on Bori Khan. Then he shoots an arrow at Mulan and sorceress girl sacrifices herself for Mulan, I guess? Okay, sure. But answer me this. She can turn into a whole swarm of birds if she likes. That's been established. Why didn't she do that and just have one of them take the arrow, hurting her minimally instead of killing her? I guess the 4 writers just weren't thinking of that when they imagined her awesome scene of turning into tons of birds, dog. Overall, just as forgettable as the original villain, if not more so. Why they decided to bring straight up magic into the story beyond looking cool, I will never know. It definitely didn't gel with Chinese audiences. Something that also didn't gel with me was Part 5, the ending of the film, not this video. First, let's look at the original ending. After Shan Yu and the other Huns capture the Emperor, Mulan makes up with Shang and with the help of him and her other friends are able to overcome him and bring peace to China. The Emperor is ready to give her a position on his council, but she declines and instead only wishes to go home like in the poem. For her bravery and courage, the Emperor gives his imperial seal, Shan Yu's sword, and bows to her himself, symbolizing just how much he respects her and believes he, along with the rest of China, owes her a great deal. She then hugs the Emperor, and while in most cases people wouldn't do that, it shows she values him not only as a man of high honor, but as a fellow human being. In such a small movement, she showed a big facet of character. When she gets back home, she tries to give her father these emblems of high status and honor, but he doesn't care about it and tosses it aside like nothing, happy just knowing Mulan is safe. It shows just how much he cares for his child above honor, and is pretty touching. The film then comes to a satisfying conclusion, with Shang coming for dinner and Mushu getting a place back as a shrine guardian. Let's now compare it to the ending of
of Mulan 2020. Mulan has her fight with Bori Khan, and he tries to shoot an arrow at her. The Emperor catches it like an anime character and throws it in the air for Mulan to kick at him and use enough force to kill him like a cartoon character. It's saying a lot when in the original Shan Yu is killed via being thrown into a fireworks display and blowing up in a flurry of color, yet this, the live-action version, feels much more outrageous and ridiculous. After that, she goes back home after declining the Emperor's offer, and she finds out that her sister has been matched, and honestly, wasn't the story of Mulan going against the typical assignment of roles to people in old-timey China? Yeah, who cares? It's the end of the film, no one's gonna question it. She goes to her father and tells him she's sorry for losing his sword, because, yeah, I guess that happened. Even in this film, it was barely highlighted, and he's just like, hey, no big deal, fam, it was just a sword. I'm glad you're safe and all. You were a warrior this whole time and I didn't see it, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't feel nearly as satisfying here. Instead of him rejecting gifts that would give his family the highest honor and embrace Mulan as being more valuable than any honor that could be bestowed on him, he's just kinda happy she didn't die and it's like, yeah, that sword, barely remember it. It's cool you're alive though. So after that, the Emperor's men come back and ask Mulan again if she wants to join the strongest warriors, and we don't get her answer, but it's implied she says yes. That kind of undermines how in both other versions, Mulan rejected having any treasure or status so she could instead go home and live a peaceful life as a veteran war hero who completed her duty, found her true self, saved her father, and didn't want to fight anymore. But what do I know? I'm just stop. I should do like my name says and just stop because I'm just a hater. LOL. This movie. Oh, you can tell what I think of this movie, and I'm still not done yet. Beyond this less-than-average movie with questionable, conflicting morals, forgettable versions of much better characters, terrible editing, nostalgia baiting, sometimes poor acting, and just being a film that removes shit from a much better one, there's also Part 6, the hypocrisy and human rights violations. If you've been keeping up in the news cycle with Mulan, you know that the film has gotten a less-than-likable demeanor after having been found out to have shot some of its scenes in the Xinjiang area of China. The reason this is frowned upon is because it was filmed near what can only be described as nothing less than concentration camps for Uyghurs. Uyghurs are a subset of Muslims in China that the government has been trying to suppress through methods including forced sterilization. There are over 1 million of them being oppressed and captive in China today, and in the credits of Mulan, they thank a Chinese agency involved with the concentration camps and propaganda for letting them film there. It's honestly pretty fucking disgusting Disney would decide to do this when they do it for a movie that they were so obviously trying to virtue signal about. Oh, we got rid of that man that was in a position of power. He doesn't represent a good image nowadays because Mulan was only attracted to him for that reason. Oh, musical numbers? Songs reminiscent of military anthems and chants? Not in our fucking movie. This is for serious Chinese audiences. See? We even, messed up Chinese culture on multiple occasions and tried to pass it off as otherwise, leading to China seeing through our corporate bullshit. Aren't we so virtuous? It's just so hypocritical. There's also the fact that they basically made Mulan a Mary Sue for no reason, just like they did to other characters beforehand who weren't Mary Sue, such as Captain Marvel, and new characters like Rey from Star Wars. They're doing all this to try and appeal to a specific demographic of people that they think exist who want to have females who are so empowered they have exactly 0 flaws, and it doesn't work because it fucking sucks and it doesn't make for a good story. Any character whose only personality flaw is, oh, they're just not using their full potential yet, but they can do it whenever they want, and they're so much better than everyone else just because they're so much better, but the patriarchy is trying to keep them down, so they have to stay low. Oh my god, why can't they just be free? It makes for bland, uninteresting stories, and the only reason that Disney does it is so they can go on press interviews and say, yes, we gave the character more personality by just saying that she does more, and she's an inventor now, and she also has better force powers, and she also has chi now, so she's just so much better. We're just doing the right thing by making a movie that empowers women in the current era, because, I mean, that does never happen anymore. No movies empower women without making them personality-less shells. We're doing our best here. It's so stupid that they keep on repeating the same message over and over again that women need to be empowered. It's like they keep saying it so much they think women can't be empowered unless they have a movie protagonist that's so bland they can't relate to it. If you want to empower women, then give them a good character that they can relate relate to, that's likable, that has character flaws, that's fucking human. Don't just make a personalityless shell and say, oh, it's better now, it's better than the original. And the fucking gall they have to try and turn a blind eye to concentration camps and then just say, we're making this movie so that we can empower a group that really needs it. Even after this info came out, the best they could say was, it's caused a lot of attention. That's all we can say. Are you serious? Really? The absolute nerve! Now the Chinese government is also trying to suppress people even talking about the film at all, and it still didn't stop critics. There wasn't even any necessity to film in Xinjiang. They already have plenty of fake sets. Why don't they just film it somewhere else instead of by a place that, through stifling the population, can be seen as committing genocide? Disney is complacent in genocide and supportive of people that help them film right by where it's happening. This shit didn't need to happen. Disney just fucking let it. Just like they let it slide when the main actress playing Mulan said long before the film was out that she supported the police beating and tear-gassing protesters in Hong Kong. You know the Hong Kong protests, right? For those who don't know, Hong Kong is the only portion of China that's been able to keep a democratic rule, having been a part of the UK until 1997. After that, they were given 50 years before having to reintegrate to China and their non-democratic, semi-socialist, authoritarian government. But Chinese authorities have been slowly trying to implement it now, 27 years too early. The people have been fighting back against this and have been met with harsh police brutality. On this matter, the actress of Mulan 2020 said, I support the Hong Kong police. You can all attack me now. What a shame for Hong Kong. Mad? Mad? Who's mad? Me? Why would I be mad? Why would I be mad that this version of Disney in the current era is trying to look so socially and politically correct by getting rid of James Gunn when he tweets something 7 years ago, and virtue signaling every single person who decides to not like The Last Jedi or any other film where they have a generic female protagonist and say, oh, well, the haters are just being so mean to us. They must be anti-feminism and they must be anti-equal rights. And then hypocritically not enforcing the same rules they had applied to someone who had done nothing wrong to someone who actually did something wrong by supporting something so brutal and just allowing it to happen and show that this character is not Mulan. This person undermines every single fucking idea of Mulan. This message shows the actress is not a feminist icon like Disney wants her to be, openly endorsing the beating of both female and male protesters against oppression similar in a way to what Mulan faced, being told they had to conform to one police set. This entire media shitstorm is completely justified, and thanks to it, a hashtag boycott Mulan movement has sprung up and become highly popular in Hong Kong, Thailand, and Taiwan, and I applaud them for it. I feel disgusting that money went towards this film so that I could watch it. I just hope with this video people will realize there is no good reason to watch this film, as it has no new good experiences that the original film didn't have. And yes, to be clear, I'm pretty fucking disappointed that this company I've loved since I was a child has gone out of its way to remake all of its popular properties for nothing more than monetary gain, and that they're supporting these companies that are complacent in fucking genocide. It's pretty fucked up, don't you think? That's all that I've got to say about this movie. Goodbye, guys. I'm gonna go wallow in hell. Bye.